Welcome to This Explainer. Today we're diving into a genuinely universal human experience. It's something literally every single one of us has to navigate at some point, that extreme, often totally disorienting psychological pendulum between sweeping victories and crushing defeats. I mean, we've all been there, right? You're either riding that dizzying high of a hot streak, feeling unstoppable, or you're staring at the ceiling at 3 a.m. after a brutal setback, questioning every life choice you've ever made. Whether you're an athlete, a professional, or just someone out there trying to hit your own personal goals, you know exactly what those feelings are like. But what if the way our brains process these extremes, it's just completely flawed? What if the stories we tell ourselves when we're on top and the ones we tell ourselves when we hit rock bottom are actually dangerous illusions? Well, we're going to unpack the psychology behind performance today and look at how finding the middle ground is actually the ultimate secret to sustained success. Okay, let's dive into this core paradox. When you are winning, you are not as good as you think you are, and when you are losing, you are not as bad as you think you are. It's such a great quote because it beautifully mirrors the illusions we face in both victory and defeat. It really challenges the very foundation of how we measure our own self-worth. Think about it. When things are going perfectly, our egos immediately want to take all the credit, right? We feel totally invincible. But conversely, when we fail, our inner critic grabs the steering wheel and convinces us that we just lack any real talent whatsoever. But as we'll explore today, the reality of your performance is rarely found at either of those emotional extremes. It actually exists somewhere in the middle. Section 1. The trap of winning and the illusion of invincibility. So let's start by looking at the upswing of our psychological pendulum. Now, I know it sounds kind of counterintuitive. Like, how on earth can winning be a trap? Well, the truth is, success breeds a deeply false sense of security. It dramatically inflates our perception of our own abilities. It's kind of like a novice poker player who wins one massive hand and suddenly thinks they're an absolute math genius, completely ignoring the fact that, hey, maybe they just got dealt great cards. When you're winning, when absolutely everything is clicking, it becomes dangerously easy to attribute every single positive outcome entirely to your own personal talent. You start to believe you possess this flawless formula, and you completely ignore the full picture. You totally forget that external forces might have just given you a massive tailwind. This inflated perception basically acts like a blindfold, and it prevents you from seeing the actual mechanics behind your success. So let's look at how this builds into a genuine threat to your long-term goals. Here is exactly how that stagnation creeps in. That intoxicating feeling of being on top breeds immediate complacency. Because you feel like you've finally figured it all out, you naturally just take your foot off the gas. The gritty practice, the deep, uncomfortable analysis of your performance, and your willingness to adopt, they just suddenly stop. And while you're busy celebrating your supposed invincibility, a really severe vulnerability is created. Because guess what? Your opponents are still out there grinding. They're actively studying your methods, and they're evolving to beat you. So you remain entirely stagnant, while the competition is out there sharpening its edge. The hidden dangers of success actually go a lot deeper than just stagnation. Success basically acts as a really heavy mask. When you're constantly winning, underlying weaknesses in your strategy, and deep, fundamental flaws in your technique, they go completely unnoticed. Why? Because the final score looks good. You simply aren't forced to correct them. Plus, and this is absolutely crucial, this overconfidence breeds arrogance. And arrogance alienates the exact people you need the most: your teammates, your coaches, your supporters. By pushing away your support system and letting success cloud your judgment, you're leaving yourself wide open. When you eventually face a much stronger opponent or a significantly more challenging situation, all those masked flaws are going to be violently exposed, and you won't have the clear judgment or the team backing you to actually survive it. Moving right along to Section 2, the spiral of losing and distorted realities. Now, we swing the pendulum all the way over to the other extreme. Just as winning creates this wild illusion of invincibility, losing creates an incredibly painful, heavy spiral of self-doubt. Just one single loss can trigger a massive cascade of negative thoughts and really intense self-criticism. In this state, we start dwelling so deeply on our mistakes, we completely exaggerate our shortcomings, basically convincing ourselves that we are fundamentally flawed, while simultaneously underestimating the abilities we've already proven we have. The psychological weight of defeat plays a trick on you. It convinces you that you're starting from absolute zero, literally erasing all memory of your past hard work, your competence, and your previous wins. Now, what's really interesting about this concept is the stark contrast between how our brains instinctively want to react versus how we actually need to react. The pure, raw pain of defeat causes profound emotional distortion. It completely warps our reality. We develop this intense tunnel vision where we focus solely on the negatives, entirely overlooking our past successes, our strengths, and all the areas where we've clearly improved. But to survive this, we have to fight tooth and nail to maintain proper perspective. And proper perspective recognizes that one single loss does not define your worth, and it doesn't cap your ultimate potential. It requires us to remember that everyone, literally everyone, experiences setbacks. They aren't a sign of permanent failure. They are a completely natural, entirely unavoidable part of the growth process.
But here's the best part. If we can just hold on to that proper perspective, defeat actually becomes a superpower. Look at what a loss truly provides us. Unlike winning, which masks our flaws, losing brutally exposes the gaps in our strategy. It highlights our weaknesses in bright neon lights so we can finally actually fix them. For those with the right mindset, a stinging defeat acts as a massive motivator to improve. But perhaps most importantly, how you respond to a loss reveals your true character. Those who use defeat to analyze their mistakes, who maintain a positive attitude, and just keep persevering, they're actively building the long-term resiliency needed for lasting success. Losses are, without a doubt, our most absolutely crucial learning opportunities.
Section 3. The blind spot, and what we miss at both extremes.
So, what are we missing when we're hanging out at either of these two extremes? External factors. Whether we're on a hot winning streak or a miserable losing streak, we have a massive blind spot when it comes to outside influences. Think about it. When we win, we just casually ignore our opponent's mistakes or good luck or a highly favorable environment, right? We just opt to take all the credit ourselves. But when we lose, we completely forget about our opponent's high skill level or random bad luck or a highly challenging environment, and we opt to take all the blame ourselves. And this brilliantly illustrates how we can actually dismantle our own biases. By recognizing this dichotomy, we realize that external forces always play a role in the outcome, in both directions. You are never completely in control, which means you are never quite as flawless as a win suggests, nor are you ever as hopeless as a loss implies.
Section 4. Finding your equilibrium, a unified theory of balance. The core goal of everything we're discussing today boils down to one word: equilibrium. It is the state of maintaining perspective and emotional regulation, actively preventing your emotional responses from completely distorting the reality of a situation. When you achieve equilibrium, you don't let the high of a big win make you arrogant and lazy, and you definitely don't let the pain of a loss make you feel worthless. Emotional regulation is the ultimate key to sustained personal development. It keeps you steady, it keeps you analytical, and it keeps you constantly moving forward, completely immune to those dangerous, wild swings of the psychological pendulum. So the crucial point is how we actually build this balanced perspective day to day. Well, it relies on 4 foundational elements working together. First, it takes humility to recognize that success is always a team effort and the product of multiple factors. Second, it takes resilience to use your setbacks as fuel to bounce right back. Third, you need self-awareness to truly understand your actual strengths and maintain a highly realistic assessment of your abilities. And finally, you need a relentless drive for continuous improvement. This means fully embracing a growth mindset and striving to learn and adapt, regardless of what the scoreboard says at the end of the day. As we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with one final, incredibly crucial question. Are you letting your last result define your next move? If you're riding high on a recent victory, are you letting complacency sneak in through the back door? And if you just suffered a really painful defeat, are you letting emotional distortion blind you to your true potential? Always remember, the score doesn't define you. Your ability to learn, regulate your emotions, and maintain your equilibrium does. Keep pushing forward, stay balanced, and remember, true mastery isn't found at the extremes, it's found in the equilibrium.